So welcome back to Cozy Rosy Crochet. I am so excited to have you join me today for another granny square pattern in the Hodgepodge blanket crochet along. During this crochet along we are stitching up 30 different crocheted granny squares, learning lots of different crochet techniques and lots of different stitch patterns too. Now before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials. Today we're working up the linen stitch in the round, and this is worked in turned rounds. So it's a really interesting square, not very big corner spaces as you can see, but it's really neat, and I really think it would make some great homeware patterns. If you've missed out on any of the other granny squares that have been featured in the Hodgepodge blanket crochet along, you can find a link in the description box showcasing all the different granny squares, and of course you can find the link to the written pattern of this square too. Let's find out the materials we need to make your very own linen in the round square. So the materials that you're going to need to make your very own linen in the round square is any worsted or Aran weight yarn. I'm continuing with my PaintBox Yarns Simply Aran. This is a 4-weight yarn and I'm using my shade number 202, which is champagne white. You're also going to need a 5mm crochet hook, or the hook that you need to create the same size square. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, and possibly a stitch marker. I'm going to show you how to use a stitch marker in this square because there are no chains at the start of the rounds in these patterns. So yeah, I'd recommend you grab a stitch marker for this one. So gather all of your materials and let's get started. I would recommend using a few stitch markers until we've really got this stitch pattern established, just so you can identify the corners, the chain one spaces within this pattern, because those first few rounds are a little bit fiddly. And actually is one other really important note to notice is that this square is actually worked in turned rounds. Now it's not often I turn my rounds when I'm working in the round, because the way that the linen stitch is worked is we want to be able to see the pattern on both sides, and you need to work into the chain one spaces, so it's easier when working this stitch in the round to turn them to keep the same look of the square on both sides. So because this square is worked in the round, we're going to start by making a chain of 4 and slip stitching it to create a ring. You can do a magic circle if you want to, or an adjustable ring. I personally don't like to use them in my granny squares because there is a bigger risk of it coming undone. I've seen so many sad photos of where people are showing their beautiful granny squares and there's a hole in the middle because it's just started to come undone. Of course you can correct it, but let's try and avoid it if we can. So once you've got your slip knot onto your hook, we're going to start with that chain of 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then we're going to slip stitch back into the first chain that we made, just underneath one of those loops. Yarn over, pull through and straight through the loop on your hook, and then we've got this lovely ring to work into. I'm going to work over my tail at the same time. I've left a long enough tail so that I can weave that in and make sure I can cinch close that beginning as well. So once we've made that ring, we're going to work directly into the middle of it. I am going to hold my end against my work and try and work around it at the same time, and we're going to start by working straight in. There's no chain one, we're just going to work 1 single crochet, a chain of 2, and that's our corner chain, and then we work a further single crochet back into the center of that ring. If you want to, you can mark each of your corners, which will be your chain 2 spaces, as we do the next few rounds. You can even mark the first stitch if you want to, just so you know exactly, just so you know exactly where you started. If I can get this, there we go. So that's our first stitch marked and our first chain 2 space marked. So we're going to repeat this around our granny square. So we've done a single crochet, a chain 2, a single crochet, and then a chain 1, because that's our linen stitch. And we're going to do that 4 times to create 4 corners. So we work a single crochet, chain 2, a further single crochet, and a chain 1 into the middle. So that's twice. I'm just pushing my stitches back down around this ring so I can continue working. So again, we're going to work a single crochet, a chain of 2 for our corner, a further single crochet and a chain 1, all into the center. Again, I'm going to move my stitches around just by pinching this the ring that we made and pushing those stitches down. So you can see these corners are already forming, and then we're going to repeat that one last time. So we work a single crochet, a chain 2, another single crochet and a final chain 1. We're going to join by slip stitching into that first single crochet that we made. I'm just taking that stitch marker out, inserting my hook under that first single crochet, and pulling straight through the loop on my hook to join that round. So there's my first corner, there's my second corner, third and fourth. If you want to mark all of your corners, it's probably best to do it whilst you're working, but it certainly helps you know exactly where your corners are. And this is my last one here. I've run out of stitch markers that I don't have around me at the moment. So once we've worked that, we're not going to chain 1 to turn. So at the minute you've got your tail at the back of your work, and that indicates that that's the reverse of our square. So we turn our work and we're going to work into that chain space that we made. So if I turn it back to where we were, you can see that we've just slip stitched into that first single crochet. We turn our work, and right underneath, just to the other side of where we've slip stitched, we can see that chain 1 space. So into that chain 1 space, we're going to work 1 single crochet and a chain 1, and that takes us to our first corner. So this is our chain 2 space, and we're going to work our corner, which is 1 single crochet, a chain of 2 and a further single crochet into that corner space, followed by a chain 1. We have another single crochet next to our corner that we've just worked, and a chain 1 space in between, and into these chain 1 spaces we work 1 single crochet and a chain 1. That takes us to our next corner. So I'm going to move that stitch marker back to that corner, and then into that chain 2 space we're going to work our corner, which is 1 single crochet, a chain of 2 and another single crochet. We chain 1 at the end of that one, and then we're going to work into that next chain 1 space in between those single crochets, and we work 1 single crochet and a chain 1. We've reached another corner, so we're going to work 1 single crochet, chain 2 for the corner, and a further single crochet and a chain 1, and that's our corner. In between we've got this chain 1 in between those single crochets, so we work 1 single crochet and a chain 1. We've reached our final corner, so I'm going to take this stitch marker out, and we're going to work 1 single crochet, chain 2 and a further single crochet and a chain 1, and then we're ready to join to that first single crochet that we made. You can see this is where we turned and worked back into that chain space. So this is a single crochet, we're not working into it, we're just going to slip stitch to join, and that completes round 2. So you can see when you're looking at these corners, they become a little bit more apparent. If you lose which way you were facing, by the way, just kind of let it do its thing and it will face the way you're working. So we've had our tail facing us, so we're not chaining 1, we're just turning our work back to work back along, and it's much more easy to see this chain 1 space when we work into this round. So for round 3 we go straight into this chain space underneath where we've slip stitched, and we work 1 single crochet and a chain 1, and that takes us to our corner chain 2 space. So in here we work 1 single crochet, chain 2, a further single crochet and a chain 1, and this time we have 2 chain 1 spaces along the sides, so we're going to work 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet, chain 1, and then we've reached our corner of our chain 2 space, so we just add our corner in. So 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 single crochet, chain 1. On this again we've got these 2 chain 1 spaces, so we're just working our linen stitch in there, which is a single crochet and a chain 1. There's our next chain 1. So we do a single crochet and a chain 1. We're back to our corner. So we work our corner stitch, which is 1 single crochet, a chain of 2, and another single crochet and a chain 1. Got this side to work, so we've got 2 chain 1 spaces, so we work 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet, chain 1. We're back to that final corner. I'm going to lose my stitch markers now, and into this chain 2 space for the corner we work our corner, so single crochet, chain 2, a further single crochet and a chain 1. We've got 1 more chain 1 space to work before we're ready to join this round, so we just work 1 single crochet, chain 1, and then we're ready to slip stitch to join to that first single crochet that we made. You can really see how beautiful this stitch is going to be, and this square is going to finish looking so lovely. So going into round 4, we're going to turn our work, and because we're on an even number row, you should have your tail facing you. There is your chain 1 space just to the side of where you've joined, and we start by making that 1 single crochet and a chain 1. This time we have another single crochet and a chain 1 to do before we reach our corner. In our corner, which is our chain 2 space, we add in our single crochet, chain 2, and a further single crochet and a chain 1. Across our sides this time we have 3 chain 1 spaces, so we're just going to work a single crochet and a chain 1 into each chain 1 space across, and then into our chain 2 space we repeat our corner, so single crochet, chain 2, and a further single crochet and a chain 1. So we've got 1, 2, 3, so we just work 1 single crochet and a chain 1 into each chain 1 space across, and that's us reached our next corner, ready to work our corner. So 1 single crochet, a chain 2, and another single crochet, and we're going to repeat that back round to where we started this round. So we work 1 single crochet and a chain 1 into each chain 1 space across to the next corner, and then into the corner we're working 1 single crochet, a chain 2, and 1 single crochet and a chain 1. We have 1 chain 1 space left to work into, so we do a single crochet and a chain 1 before we're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet that we made of the round to join. There we go. So we turn our work again going into round 5. We're on an odd numbered round, so our tail should be facing away from us. This is the pattern pretty much established for the whole of our square. So once we've turned our work, we don't chain 1, you work into that chain 1 space underneath and just to the side of your slip stitch join. You work all the chain 1 spaces to your corner, working 1 single crochet and a chain 1. So let's do those ones. So we do the chain space underneath where we've joined with a single crochet and a chain 1. Then you work into any chain 1 spaces over towards the first corner with a single crochet and a chain 1. And then you work into your corner, repeating that corner stitch, which is a single crochet, your chain 2, a further single crochet and a chain 1. From here you repeat all the way across working one single crochet and a chain one, which is your linen stitch, into each of the chain one spaces across to the next corner. And then in your corner space, you're working your corner. So a single crochet, chain two, and a further single crochet and a chain one. So continue to work all the way round. There's your final corner, and I'll meet you ready to join and go into round 6. So I'm just working my last 2 linen stitches back to where we joined, making sure that I work into that final chain space before we joined. And it's just remembering to slip stitch to that chain, slip stitching to the top of that first single crochet that we made, not into that chain space. So if you do need to, continue to mark your first stitch that you made. Probably should have showed you that before, because it's easy to think that we need to join in this chain one space, but actually your first stitch is kind of just above that bobble, and you can see that it's higher. If I hadn't worked those, you can see that it's a little bit higher than those previous stitches. So just slip stitch to join, and then we're ready to turn. So we're going into round 6, which is an even number, so our tail is facing us, and we're just going to repeat the same pattern all the way round. You can find the full written pattern if you want to follow it in the linked in the description box below. And basically what's going to happen is the number of chain one spaces before the corners are going to increase in each round. So we just continue to work one single crochet and a chain one into each chain one space over to the corner, and then we just work that corner, which is a single crochet, a chain two, a single crochet and a chain one to complete, and then we just continue to work each chain one space, so not into the stitches but indirectly into those chain spaces with a single crochet and a chain one all the way across to the next corner. Now you can keep repeating that stitch pattern all the way round, making sure that you work your chain two spaces into your corners and then working into each and every chain one space across to get between the corners. And you can keep repeating that until you reach the size of square that you want. So for me, I'm obviously going to be working to create an 8-inch square. So the number of rounds that I did for my previous square was a total number of 14 rounds. But I can already tell that my tension is looser on this square than I made previously. So I might not need to do the full 14, but I would just keep working this stitch pattern around, turning it with each round until it measures 8 inches. We don't need to add an edging onto this square because we've got such lovely neat stitches across the top that are going to be perfect for joining our squares together. The only thing I want to mention is once you've finished your square is the importance of weaving in this tail. If, like me, you've worked over it, you can just simply pull and it will close. I'm going to weave mine in because I haven't made a mistake so far, which I'm quite proud of. And then to weave in, you're simply going to go underneath these stitches and work in and out around these stitches a few times. You can go backwards and forwards, and it's just going to secure the end and secure the center of your square. If you haven't worked around your project, you can still weave around and then pull on your tail once you've woven most of it in, and it will cinch close any gap that you have. So once you've worked a few one way, you can turn and come back the other. And then once you've finished your square, obviously don't do this until you've finished your square. Don't copy me here. But yeah, once you're happy with your square and it's all finished, you've woven your ends in, you can snip that one off. So I've just measured my square and I've finally reached the 8-inch by 8-inch size, and I'm just going to do a quick row count with you so you can see how to count your rows as well. So we've got this center here, which is round 1, then you've got round 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're just counting up these V's effectively, and I've actually ended up with 16 rounds to get my size this time, me thinking my tension was looser. But it's a lovely stretchy square, and now that you've got this pattern down, you can just continue to work more and more rounds to make a large square if you wanted to. It'd actually make a really nice placemat. Hold that thought, might be back with that one day. Anyway, I am done with my linen in the round. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. As brief as it was, it's the joy of some of these really nice easy repeats. I am going to fasten off just by grabbing my scissors and creating a nice long tail ready to weave that end in. I've already woven my end tail in here, so I can snip that one off. You saw me do that one earlier, and that completes the completely reversible linen in the round square. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and you're loving your beautiful linen square too. I will be back again with another granny square pattern for the Hodgepodge blanket crochet along tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and of course that notification bell so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials again.